Okay. Good morning, good afternoon. Okay, we're going to do an interesting shiur today. This will be there's a lot of different sugyas throughout Shas, throughout Gemara and throughout halacha that are very complicated. They're complicated topics. So you have the most complicated topics in halacha are usually the principles of halacha, right? In terms of not a specific halacha, but a principle, sort of in terms of like rove, or how majority works and things of that nature. That are those are the most complicated areas of halacha. Then there are areas of halacha that like themselves are complicated because of, let's say, there's a lot happening in each topic in that particular halacha. So or it might come into conflict with other areas of halacha. And then there are there are areas of halacha that are just themselves complicated because there's so many details to them. But then there are areas of halacha that are really not that difficult. They're familiar to us. We can understand them. They don't inspire too many questions. So those are areas where essentially they're taught to us in kindergarten. It's very easy to understand them. They're not that big of a deal, and they're very easy to understand. It's not that difficult. So a couple weeks ago, I had decided to look at an area of halacha that I didn't think would be so difficult. It was really just for a small dvar Torah on something, and the area was giving a nickname. I'll tell you where it came up, or how it came up. When in this past week's parsha, I usually prepare the parsha 3 weeks ahead of time, so that way, if I get into an emergency, I don't have to write it to our Torah at the last second. It's already been done and it's prepared. So a couple weeks ago, I was studying this past week's parsha, and came up to where they called Esav a nickname, right? When Esav was born, he was called Edom, right? So there's different explanations as to why he was called Red. Right, in English, in America, you call someone red if they have red hair, they're gingy, right? So they get the nickname Red usually. Esav also was red, but then it says that right away he was called Red because he was covered in red hair. He was fully developed as a baby. But then they have then later on it says that he was called Red, sort of derogatorily, because he traded in the birthright for red lentil soup. So I was curious about it, and then I saw that let's look at what the nicknames are all about. Figuring it would be like a couple of different gemaras about nicknames, no big deal. There's no meat to the topic. But like most things in the Torah, so what happens is that what we do with Lumdis is, and that's what the style of analysis that we use. That's what it's called. Is that we try to break down each halacha into its component parts. Right, so sort of like almost like a chemistry formula, right? Where you're looking at a compound, and then the compound is made up of different parts to it. So in order to understand the compound, you have to break the compound up into different things. That's generally what we're trying to do when it comes to halacha. So an easy sugya, you would think that there's an easy topic because it doesn't have too many parts to it, right? There's not too much stuff to break down. So here you have a prohibition of המכנה לחבירו והקורא לחבירו בכינויו. So there's one prohibition is giving somebody a nickname. You create the nickname, right? That's one prohibition. The second prohibition is calling somebody by a nickname that either you came up with or somebody else came up with. So how much could it possibly be on that, right? Again, I get it. It's insulting, so we don't call somebody by a nickname. So it doesn't seem like there's going to be too much to the topic, right? Well, how much could there possibly be to this topic? But then as I started studying it and started seeing the different opinions on this topic, it started getting meatier and meatier. There was just more and more to the topic, which is surprising until it turned out to be an entire area in of itself, an entire sugya, which I found fascinating. So now I get to share it with you. So that's where I'm coming from on this topic and the idea behind it. Okay, so we're gonna be looking at this this topic. I'm sorry.
before you get started on the actual sources,
Yeah.
is it, and I'm not sure if I'm coming from culturally a different taste, or I'm coming from pulpit rabbi drash, but when I think of the problem with halacha or the philosophy, which we don't really cover here, of Hashem's name is held in a certain esteem, that we use it in vain. We're always talking, certainly in davening, about so, Nekadesh Shimcha. We're always talking about Hashem's name and how careful we have to be when we go near Hashem's name. So that sort of served as a background for this year. That's what to do when we're dealing with Hashem and His name.
Yes, I think
that. Like that are all underlying all this?
I don't think so. I mean, at best you could. I didn't see any Rishonim that bring that up or make that connection. I don't know if that has. I didn't see anything like that that has anything to do with it. So I don't know. I don't see it that much. I think Hashem is a different topic and definitely more philosophical than what we have here. It's an interesting thought. I didn't see philosophical. Yeah, I didn't see any connection to it. Okay. Yeah. So the Rambam has 24 things. So in the introductory shiur, we went over this. It has 24 things that that you do. You lose your chelik in olam haba. And again, what that means is that this act is incredibly, it is a huge imperfection on a person. You lose your chelik olam haba. We're told that Kol Yisrael Yeshem chelik olam haba, that all Jews have a portion in the world to come. So it's up to us to lose it. So you have to do something that's so heinous that you lose your portion in the world to come. That's these 24 things. I didn't list them. You can look them up. Here's the source. You can see the 24 things yourself. But then the Rambam says that there's other sins, right? He says yesh averos kalos me'elu. They're not as serious. The sins aren't as serious. In any case, the Chachamim said that if you continuously do them, if you're habitual violators of these sins, so then you have no chelik olam haba. Then you also lose your portion in olam haba. And he says that it's best to stay away from the sins, and you should be warned not to do them. Okay, and two of those types of sins are our topic of calling your friend by a nickname and going ahead and giving him a nickname and then calling him by a nickname. Okay, so and you have no chelik olam haba when you die without doing teshuva for these things. Okay, so this is an interesting Rambam, and mostly philosophical, this Rambam, although obviously listing the Isser here, right? He's listing the prohibition of not calling somebody by a nickname, right? So, and this is actually, as far as I can tell, this is, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, this is the only place the Rambam brings this up, this prohibition. So he doesn't even say, like, there is a prohibition of doing this. He just says that somebody that does this habitually, so they're going to lose their chelik olam haba, which clearly means that you shouldn't be doing it, but doesn't mean that it's, let's say, one of the Taryag mitzvos or it's an issa daraisa, right? It is what it is, but you definitely shouldn't be doing it. So we had a couple of questions on this Rambam. We wanted to know what was the issue with calling somebody a nickname, right? Now again, when I say what's the issue, so I'm not asking philosophically what the issue is. I'm saying whenever there's a mitzvah or there's an isser, right? Whenever you have a prohibition or you have a mitzvah, so there's some halachic objective that you are either fulfilling or violating, right? That's the idea here. So exactly when we say what's the nature of the isser, what's the problem with giving somebody a nickname or calling somebody a nickname, I'm not looking for a homiletic idea or some philosophical idea. What I'm asking is, what exactly are you violating? What is the problem here on a legal level? On a legal level, what's so an answer could be, it's too general for what we would want to understand, is that you could say this is a prohibition between man and man, right? That you can say, okay, so that is an answer. It's not specific enough. It's too general, but it is an answer. So that tells me that something about this prohibition, that this prohibition is not between man and God, but it's between man and man. This is pretty obvious here, right? That's clear. But that would be an example of, we're not saying it's philosophical. What we're trying to do is categorize it and then break it down again to its components. So that's our question. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. Why is it? What's an avera kala? What's an easy sin? What's a light sin? Right. That's what we want to know. Also, why is this only a problem if it's done habitually, regularly? Why isn't this a problem if it's done? Just once in your lifetime. It's not, you don't lose your chil v'olam haba. Okay. And then this strange language of the Rambam. So he says, I'm going to try to get over here. He says, "Kedai hein lisrachik mehem." Right? It's best, right, to distance yourself from them. And then he says, "Ulizahar behem," and to be careful about them. Right? So that seems repetitive. And again, the Rambam is not a repetitive writer. He doesn't try to emphasize his point by repeating. If he's saying something twice, there's a reason why he has to say it twice. That means there's a difference between being misrachik, being distancing yourself from it, ulizahar behem, and to be careful about it. Okay? Ulizahar, just to give an idea, ulizahar is usually the language of a prohibition. The Gemara will frequently ask, okay, you've told me that there's a punishment for something. Azhara minayin. Where's the warning against it? In other words, the Gemara is never satisfied with the Torah telling us that something is prohibited just by listing its punishment. It must also list the prohibition. So lizahar mehen usually is a language of isser. It's usually a language of prohibition. So that's what. That's sort of what the alarm should be going off in our minds as to what they are. Okay, and then also we want to understand. It's strange. The Rambam doesn't mention principles of halacha over and over. Right? There's no reason to do that. The Rambam expects that as you're going through this book, right, his Mishnah Torah, so that you're gonna remember what he had said before. So if he lists the principle earlier in the book, he expects you to remember it. So it doesn't constantly repeat the principle wherever it's going to show up. So here he says that you only lose your chilek v'olam haba if you don't do teshuva, but if you did teshuva, then you don't. Okay, so I know that already. That's a general principle. That's true of every single sin. So why would I, right? So why does the Rambam have to list it again? So this is very important in terms of a methodological point in learning. Okay, whenever you read a law, right, and any law. So, and this is true of I assume any legal work, not just halacha. But whenever you read a law, there has to be a reason why that law was written. Right? You don't have to write obvious laws. Okay, you only have to write laws that are not obvious. There's no law in any book ever that a person has to eat. There's no law ever a person has to breathe. These are obvious things. So there's no reason to list them as laws. Laws are only listed if there's a thought that you might not have to do this law, right? In other words, if I might have thought otherwise. So when the Rambam takes a general principle and repeats it like he is here, so then that should tell us, oh, wait a minute, I might have thought otherwise. So what would I have thought? What's the opposite? And how could I have thought opposite of what is being told to me here? Okay. So here in this specific case, I'm told that I only lose my portion of the world to come if I don't repent. But if I do repent, then I don't lose my portion of the world to come. And now I have to ask myself, why is it that I would think that I don't? And that answer is very simple. It comes from this medrash here. Right, the medrash says that there are three things that a person who, even if he does teshuva, it doesn't help him. Right, that doesn't help. Right, so and one of them is this giving a nickname to a friend. Right, so giving a nickname to a friend is one of the things that you don't get teshuva for. And it's not just like a strange medrash that's out there. Right, the Kolbo, who's a later Rishon, he brings this down. He brings it down, and he says that this medrash is in fact true. This is a true medrash. This isn't just something out there. And he says that now obviously the Rambam disagrees, but he says that we have to ask the question of how could teshuva not heal? Well, how is that possible? It means I do something and then all of a sudden teshuva doesn't work. Right? How's that? And I thought teshuva worked. The Rambam said teshuva works all the time. Right? We have Gemaras. Teshuva always works. Right? So now I'm being told that teshuva doesn't work. Right? That's a very strange statement. So that has to be understood. And it's such a strong statement and so not out there in the universe of halacha, meaning that it's to be taken so seriously that even though the Rambam didn't agree with it and didn't think that it was something that should be brought down, he had to address it to negate it, right? He said because he knew that enough people would be aware of this medrash that says that teshuva doesn't work, that he had to go ahead and tell everybody that no, don't worry, that this is only if you don't do teshuva. So that's a question why this is such a big idea, right? That he doesn't list it. Okay. Then we have this Gemara here in source number 4 that says that anybody that goes down to Gehenna, when they die, they go to hell, they go back up, except for these 3, right? These 3, that doesn't happen. They go out to Gehenna and I guess they stay there, right? So, right, and one of them is calling somebody a nickname. The Gemara questions and says, "What do you mean calling somebody a nickname?" One of the other things that we had listed was embarrassing somebody. What's the problem with calling somebody a nickname? That's embarrassing them in public. So you're just saying the same thing in a different way. So the Gemara says, no, it's even in a case where a person is not embarrassed, right? And here Rashi says the dashbe kvar hurgo b'kach, right? He's used to it. So that was our next question we had, right? That a nickname is wrong according to Rashi, even if the person isn't embarrassed by it, right? So that should be like really that's very strange. Right? And why would that be true? That's when I started realizing in this sugya that, well, there's more than meets the eye here, right? Because if you're telling me, right, if you'd ask any child on the street, what's wrong with calling somebody a nickname? Torah says you're not allowed to call somebody a nickname. It's so bad that if you do it a lot, you're not going to have a chel gam haba. What do you think the problem is? And they're going to say it hurts somebody's feelings. It's offensive. Okay, but let's say it's not offensive. So then anybody will tell you there's no problem with the nickname. But here we say no. So Rashi understands it very simple. Rashi says, what's the problem? Okay, so it doesn't hurt the guy's feelings, but the reason why you're saying it is to hurt the guy's feelings, right? So it doesn't make a difference if it's effective or not, right? The efficacy of your insult doesn't matter, right? That's not the question here. The question is, right, why what you intended to do. That's how Rashi sees the problem. Okay. So that's we have to understand that. Okay. Then we have this idea here of they ask the students of Rav Zakkai ask, well, how do you have such a long life? And he says one of the things he says, I never called my friend by a nickname, right? And the authors of Tosfos say that the problem here is, which is it's a fascinating Tosfos. He says the problem here is that it's going to bring a defamation to the family name, right? That's the problem with the nickname. And I guess it's centered around the person's last name or something. But that's what Tosfos says, that it's going to be defamatory, and that's the issue. Okay, which leads us to a machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos. Is the issue the fact that you're intending to insult the person, or is it that you're having the person's name? Okay, I'm sorry for going over the questions. I know we did an introduction, but there's just so many questions. I want to make sure we're on the same page here. Okay, another Gemara, they said the same thing to Rav Ada bar Ava. Well, how did you have a long life? He says, also, I never called anybody by a nickname, right? And here Rashi says that the problem with the nickname is that it's derogatory by nature. So that seems to contradict what Rashi had said earlier, where he said that it doesn't make a difference if it's derogatory or not, right? So now we've got a problem. And Tosfos says that the issue of the nickname is also, again, the derogatory nature to it. Okay, and this is where now these next two sources is where things really start shaking up, because these are really out there, like really out there. Okay, the Miri says again, it doesn't make a difference if the person doesn't care about it, right? Loya chavero kapi b'kach, right? Doesn't make a difference. He says afilu loya chavero kapi b'kach, even if your friend doesn't care about it. Right? That doesn't matter. You could call a guy a nickname that the guy doesn't care. He's been called call him Pee Wee since he's in first grade, and that's stuck in his nickname, and he doesn't really care. He's just used to it already, and that doesn't affect him anymore. You're still not allowed to do it. Okay, that we saw already. That's not so bad. But this source number 12 here, this is the strangest thing in the world, right? Okay, this is really where whatever we said beforehand was strange, but this is really odd. The Baal Tzros, he says as follows. He says, "Lo hayakara af b'shem shemachnu som mishum ahava imeno shmo kigon et shmo ruvei v'korim l'chaim." Even if you're doing it out of love, right? Even if you're calling him out of love, right? It's a praiseworthy nickname, right? It's praiseworthy. You're still not allowed to call the guy by a praiseworthy nickname. So how do you understand that, right? That's the strangest thing in the world. And he's not saying that you intended it to be praiseworthy, but the guy took it as offensively. That's not what he's saying, right? You gave him a good nickname, right? It's a nickname that the guy loves, right? You intended the love, right? Because we have a couple of variables going on here. We have whether the offense to the person, the offense to the family name, and your intentions, right? That's what we've seen so far as what Rishonim have said is the issue, right? Okay, and we said it doesn't make a difference if the guy cares or not, because if you intended it, as Rashi said, and the guy didn't care, it's still usher, right? You didn't intend to hurt the guy, and the guy didn't care, but it was a problem with the guy's family, right? And that was a problem. It was pagam mishpacha, like you defamed the family name problem. Here we're saying all of those variables out the window. It doesn't make a difference, right? Everybody sees this. This should be like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Like we must be reading this wrong, right? You didn't intend for it to be harmful. You didn't offend the guy, and you haven't done anything to hurt his family name, right? So in all three of our boxes are not checked. And yet the Baal Sura still says that objectively, just simply calling somebody by a nickname, that's a problem. So that right away, that tells us, okay, we're not understanding what a nickname is all about. If we think that a nickname is all about the prohibition of offending, then this Baal Sura doesn't make any sense. And then we have to ask what the real issue is.
And you're still looking for an answer that's not philosophical?
Yeah.
You're still looking for an answer that the underlying not philosophical?
I'm going to try my best. Yeah. I want a legal answer to this, right? I want a legal answer. Okay. Then you have the Remilnil, okay? Who says, so he says, listen, it doesn't make a difference what you're intending, doesn't make a difference what you think. Deep down, this hurts the guy. It doesn't matter, okay? You could think you're not hurting the guy. It doesn't matter. No matter what, it's impossible. The guy's name is Reuven. You're calling him Chaim. His name is Reuven. He's going to be upset and he's going to be embarrassed by the fact that you're not calling him by his name. That's the reality of how people work. Okay, so that's how he sees it. Then we have a way of looking at it in the Kesef Mishnah. Okay, the Kesef Mishnah was a commentary on the Rambam. So he says as follows. He quotes Rashi, right? And he says that if a person had no intention of offending the person with the nickname, it's still permissible. It is permissible to call them by a nickname. The Rambam though says the Rambam doesn't write bad nickname. Okay, the Rambam doesn't say shame ra. He just says nickname. So there, right, we have what's called. Now this is a debate about whether you can learn this way from the Rambam. It's clear that the Kesef Mishnah did learn this, which is what's called stimas lashon harambam. Okay, this was a big debate between Reb Chaim Soloveitchik and the Chazon Ish. When the Chazon Ish died, so they looked at the Chazon Ish's svarim on the Chazon Ish's copy of Reb Chaim on the Rambam. So he had written notes on it. And he had his own handwritten notes inside, and he heavily disagreed also in his Shiur, not just in the note on his handwritten notes inside, but they published the handwritten notes. And he was not a fan of what's called learning from stimas lashon Rambam, which means that when the Rambam omits something that everybody else brings up, that tells you something. You can learn from the fact that he omitted something. Right, that enough is the fact that he didn't bring it up. There's a Gemara that's clear Gemara that says something. The Rambam didn't exactly quote the Gemara. There's a reason why the Rambam didn't quote it, and therefore you can learn that the Rambam isn't holding by whatever he left out. He doesn't maintain that is true. So here, when it comes to the nickname, the Rambam just writes you can't call your friend a nickname. Doesn't say can't call your friend a bad nickname. So the Kesef Mishnah says it's clear by the fact that he doesn't say bad nickname that it doesn't matter if it's a bad nickname or not, right? And that matches up with our Gemara, because our Gemara said that even if the person's used to it, it's still not okay to do. So that's how the Kesef Mishnah understood the Rambam. Okay, the Aruch here says afilu shem shechino lo acherem lo kresiv. He says he wants to make sure we understand here that it's not just the calling the person the nickname. Not just like creating the nickname, but even if you call the nickname to somebody else, right? Somebody else came up with the nickname. That's still an issue. Okay. The Shulchan Aruch, interestingly, right? Because now the Shulchan Aruch is going to sit down and he's going to pick out. Remember our variables, right? Our variables are the key to this sugya. Okay. So everybody remember the variables. There's the question of whether or not the nickname hurt the person, whether or not the nickname hurt the family, whether or not the nickname was given with an intention to hurt. Those are our three variables, right? So which of the Shulchan Aruch think was a problem? Did he think all three was a problem? Did he think none of them was a problem? Like that weird shita, I shouldn't say weird, like the unique shita in the Baal Tzuros, right? Which way did the Shulchan Aruch come out on this one? So he says here, Yizahar shalol hachno shem ra לחבירו. So right, so he doesn't agree with the Rambam. He says here the prohibition is a bad name, right? That's you can't do a bad name. So if it was a complimentary nickname, you would be allowed to, according to the Shulchan Aruch. Now, even if it's a derogatory nickname, but the person's used to it, so you call to him and he doesn't care, right? He never cares. So he says that it doesn't matter. That's still sir. If it's a bad nickname, if it's a derogatory nickname, it doesn't make a difference. If what you mentioned, and in kavanas levaisho, but here's the important thing. The Shulchan Aruch says your intention has to be to embarrass him. In other words, if I give the guy, let's go with Pee Wee, right? I call the guy since he's in first grade. We've known each other. I've been calling him Pee Wee since he's in first grade, right? So, and I don't want to insult the guy. It's just what we've been calling him. That's the name that we've been calling him since he's a little kid. So, I don't have any intention to embarrass him. So then it doesn't seem, according to Shulchan Aruch, that that's a problem. He holds that that's not an issue. It's got to be, again, my intention has to be to embarrass the guy, and it has to be that's a derogatory nickname, okay? The guy's feelings, it doesn't seem like are important here, right? It doesn't seem like it's important because he's saying even if the guy's used to it, right? So that doesn't matter. That would still be a problem, okay? Good. Those are our okay. So and then the question is, right? What's the prohibition of calling someone a nickname if we don't care if the person's feelings are hurt, but only if I intend to hurt the person, right? So what's the issue there? Okay, everybody good? Those are we got like 13 questions essentially that we've got to answer. So let's look at let's try to come up with a svara, right? Because before I'm sure people are picking up on this as we go through more and more topics. But a problem that we have when it comes to learning is we're not just trying to answer the questions, right? Obviously, we want to get answers to our questions. But if you approach the topic with a list of questions and then say, okay, how can I answer the questions? And then go one by one, I'm essentially shooting in the dark, right? What I need to do is I first need to come up with an explanation for what the prohibition is. What is this prohibition? And that explanation, if it's correct, should answer all our questions. Then we should be able to answer the questions. If I don't have that explanation, then how am I going to be answering my questions? That doesn't seem to make any sense, right? So first we have to come up with a svara. We have to come up with an explanation. So the svara that I have is that there's one of two problems with giving a nickname. It's either, and this is the nature of the nickname. The nature of the problem of giving a nickname is it's all about defamation. Okay. That's what it centers around, okay? And it centers around the problems with it's either the issue is giving a nickname, right? So let me say it this way. The prohibition is giving a nickname. That's the prohibition. The prohibition that the ma'aseh ha'avera, the actual action of the sin is giving the nickname, okay? There are two ways of understanding that as the problem. It's either the intention to defame, or creating the result of defamation, right? That is what the isser is, right? And here you have the Rambam says, right? Amru hamalim pnei chavero b'Rambam ein chel gom haba v'akor chavero בכינויו, right? So he says these people we've already learned they don't have a portion of the world to come. right? Because these things, right? The only person that would do something like this, right, says the Rambam, the only person that would embarrass somebody in public, the only person that would, and think about, by the way, how low we've come as a society, because most people wouldn't see these things as so serious. The Rambam says only somebody who's lacking in common sense and in perfection would do something this heinous as trying to embarrass somebody in public, as giving them a nickname, or as trying to honor yourself at their expense, right? Like the common put down, let down that you give somebody, right? Only somebody, and he says, look at this, Kim nefesh chasera, only somebody whose soul is lacking and who hasn't perfected themselves would ever consider doing something like this. It's almost like the Rambam is discussing murder, right? It's a pretty crazy thing. It sounds like, I mean, he's speaking so harshly that he says that they'll, right? And ain't a royal, so somebody who's that lacking, he doesn't have a portion in the world to come. Okay, so calling, right? So what's the issue with calling somebody a nickname, right? So it's the basic fact is that it is defamatory, right? When you give somebody a nickname, what you're doing is you are defaming the person, and that violates this sin. It's the defamation. Okay, now we have to understand how the defamation comes about. That we've got to explain. But basically, what it comes down to, the issue is the defamation. Okay, so let's look at some of our questions here and try to answer them. Right. So Rashi had said that the issue with a nickname is the intention to defame. Right, and Tosfos had wrote that the issue is the shame to the family name. Right, and we want to explain that machlokes. Okay, so what we're saying is, right, that the debate between them is whether the issue with the nickname is the intention or the effect, right? That's their essential debate, right? So Rashi maintains the issue is the intention to hurt somebody, right? It's not a question of the effect of what you've done, but it's rather, even if the person is used to the nickname, according to Rashi, it's not going to matter, because the issue here is the intention that you have to hurt someone. While Tosfos maintains that it's a problem of shaming somebody, it's the effect that you're going to have, right? We saw it's not just Tosfos that feels this way, it's others as well. But that's the essential debate that we have when it comes to this isser of giving a nickname, right? What is the right? What's the isser? Is the isser in the intention or in the effect? Okay. And so we wanted to know when Rashi seems to say that it's not about the intention, is he contradicting himself? So Rashi wrote that the issue of the nickname is in the derogatory nature of it, right? But he's consistent, right? Because why is Rashi consistent? Because he's saying that the sin is the intention, right? Still the intention of giving the nickname, right? It's the question of whether or not the intention is successful or not. That Rashi is not concerned with. Okay. What about the strange opinions of the Meiri and this Baal Tzraros that says that even if it's done with great intention, right? And right. So, and the Milunil who says that no matter what, it's going to be embarrassing, right? So how do we explain that, right? So the Meiri said that even if the person doesn't mind, it's still a problem, right? And this is strange to us because it's odd that you would have a prohibition against somebody when the person doesn't mind, right? That seems strange, right? That's what seems a problem. But what they're saying is that and this is key because I think this is the most novel idea that we have here in this sugya, is there's an objective problem to a nickname. As a nickname, right? We in most prohibitions between person to person, right? So we say there's an objective problem to it, right? So right, there's an objective. We usually say we usually say the opposite. We usually say it's subjective to the person, right? So for instance, if I damage somebody, right? If I smash into somebody's parked car, right? And I come out and I say, okay, there's according to the Rishonim that holds there's a problem of causing somebody's property damage, right? So I go there and the person says, it's a couple scratches. We're going to junk the car anyway tomorrow. So you wouldn't say there's something objectively wrong to what the person did. It's obviously dependent on the car that you hit, right? And the owner's feelings towards their car. It's not objectively there's something wrong with you. You didn't objectively violate a prohibition there, right? It's all dependent on the person's feelings. Here we're saying that when it comes to a nickname, irrespective of the hurt that it causes, irrespective of what the person is what they feel, and if you've hurt their feelings, you haven't hurt their feelings, it doesn't make a difference. According to the Meiri, according to the Baal Tzvaros, there is an objective problem with calling somebody by a nickname. That itself is a problem. So the fact that you did it out of love and the fact that the person likes the nickname, right, all of that doesn't make a difference. Right? It doesn't matter how used to it they are. It doesn't make a difference that they like it. It doesn't make a difference what your intention was. It doesn't make a difference that it doesn't hurt the person's feelings, right? It doesn't make a difference that it was or was not defamatory to their family. All of those factors do not matter. The only thing that matters here is the fact that that you gave a nickname, and the giving of a nickname itself is a problem. Okay.
You don't have to explain why.
No, okay, so that's you just fell for it, right? Because what's the right? You want to know why, but why is the philosophy behind it? I'm not required. I'm only paid to explain the how and the what and the where and the when, right? So why costs extra, right? So that's not. I don't have to. It's not. That's the philosophy behind it. So the question's a valid question. It's just not. That doesn't explain the legal basis for it, right? I don't understand why.
And do we have? Do we have a source in the Torah for this? Or this is something, what you mentioned in the beginning, this is something that seems to be mentioned.
I don't have any psukim.
There's no pasuk.
I don't know of a pasuk. I'm not saying there is no pasuk.
So how do we know that it's?
I don't remember a pasuk.
How does the Rambam know this is usher?
From the Gemara.
How do the Rishonim know this is usher?
From the Gemara.
The Gemara doesn't mean.
I didn't hear what?
There's no minayin in the Gemara?
No.
There's no source for the Isur?
Okay. I didn't see one. No. Okay. Okay. Now the Aruch was an interesting shita, right? What did the Aruch say? The Aruch wrote that even calling somebody by a nickname that others said is problematic, right? You didn't come up with the nickname, but he says he still can't do that. So that seems obvious. Of course I can't do that. So why does the Aruch have to mention it, right? So so he says that that a person you could make, this is my explanation of the Aruch, you could make the argument that once somebody else gives the nickname, they're the person that did the problem. They created the problem, right? I didn't create the problem. I'm just merely mimicking what they did. If you're talking about the defamatory language and a nickname that's defamatory, that's not me. That's them. That they did that. They came up with Pee-wee. I didn't come up with Pee-wee. I'm just repeating it. So the Aruch says, don't think that way, right? The prohibition is two things. It's a machna shem Chavero. It's coming up with the name. Vakore, it's לחבירו, בכינויו, and it's also calling them by that nickname. Both of them are prohibited. Okay. Okay. The Shulchan Aruch here seems to be combining Rashi and Tosfos, right? That by saying that we're not really worried about the person's feelings, but we are worried that the person's going to be, his intention is to defame. That seems to be things. Okay. Okay. So and our last question is, what's the difference, right? What's the havamina, the difference of oh no, sorry, we have a couple more things. What's the difference if the person's used to hearing it, right? If calling the nickname is wrong, so why does the Gemara have the havamina? Right, the Gemara says you might have thought that if the person is used to hearing it, it's not an issue, right? So, so if we're talking about the effect of it, it doesn't make a difference if the person's used to hearing it, right? Because it still defames the person, even if the person doesn't mind, or even if they're used to hearing it, and especially according to the Milunil, who says that no matter what, it's embarrassing. It doesn't make a difference. Okay. Okay. Why are they Averos Kalos? So here's what I want to say about Averos Kalos. Averos Kalos, when it says that there are light sins, right, that they are not as heavy, the Rambam isn't characterizing the prohibition, but rather how we view the prohibition, right? When he says that they're light sins, he doesn't mean that the sins themselves, there's sins that are lighter, sins that are heavier. He's not characterizing the sin. He's characterizing how we view the sin. So how we view the sin is we view it as a light sin. Okay. Now, why is it that if the actions are only problematic if they're done regularly, okay? But occasionally call somebody a nickname once and twice in your life, that's not a big deal. It's only if you regularly do this, okay? So it's not as great of a imperfection on certain things, right? If they're only done once in a while, right? But and I don't know where the line is. I don't know why some sins are imperfections even once in a while, and some, right? But what we are saying is, okay, that the prohibition, no matter what, is prohibited. It's not that it's okay to do if you do it once in a while, right? But we're saying that the imperfection that comes from it is really in the fact that you do this regularly. The great imperfection that makes you lose your chelak and olam haba in the world to come, right? That's brought about by doing this regularly. That's what we're saying. Okay. Last thing, the Rambam's language of להתרחק and ולהזהר בהן, right? That you have to be careful about it, and you have to distance yourself, right? להתרחק generally is a language of it's an imperfection, but it's not prohibited. Okay. So for instance, I'll give you an example: lying. Right? Most Rishonim don't hold that lying is an actual prohibition. But the Torah says, midvar sheker tircha, you should distance yourself from lying. So all Rishonim say you shouldn't lie. But that's right, it signifies to us, it signals to us, not signifies, excuse me, it signals to us that this item is one of an imperfection in a person, but it's not a prohibition. Lizahar mehen does express that this is prohibited. Okay, so why does the Rambam use both here? Because that seems to be, it seems to contradict itself. If you're saying that it's an imperfection but not prohibited, and then says it's prohibited, because the imperfection isn't prohibited, but it's an infrequent, indiscretion. The prohibited action is when you regularly do it. So israchik mehem, right? You should stay away from it when you do it even once in a while. It's not a good thing to do. But the prohibition, where we find that it's usher, is when you do it regularly. So that's why the Rambam has to use both languages. Okay, that's this week's Shiur. So it's good. I have to tell you, next week. Does anyone have any questions on this before I pitch next week? Because next week I really want to throw a good pitch for it. Does anyone have any questions on this?
So this is probably outside the parameters of the Shiur. Has this fallen out of practice?
Why has it fallen out of practice, you're asking?
Yeah. I know it's not really, we don't really observe this any longer.
We should.
Even from the stuff people and Talmidei Chachamim.
Right.
Give nicknames, use.
I don't know. I had a lot of questions. Okay. I have a nickname that people call me, and I have and it doesn't affect me. It doesn't bother me at all. It's not a derogatory nickname, and it doesn't hurt me. And people call it to me. My students call me it, and it doesn't affect me whatsoever. And I start telling my students.
According to them, it doesn't matter.
Right. So I tell my students, you want to be machmir, and so I stop calling people nicknames now because these shitos that say even if you do it out of love, you can't do it. It seems to be objectively, that's what they're saying. Objectively, there's a problem with it, so you shouldn't do it. Okay. So I started.
Rabbi, sorry, one more question. The Baal Tzoros, you said, who said you can't even give them a good nickname. So would you say for him, even a good nickname fits into defamation?
Well, I don't know. I don't know why he's. It's hard to say what the issur is to him, right? Because everything we said is defamation. So how do we understand the Baal Tzoros, what he's saying? I can explain what he's saying, how he got there and how he understands the prohibition. He's just saying that objectively, look, you could explain it through the remillennial by saying that no matter what, even a nickname given out of love is insulting. But he seems to say, like the Baal Tzoros says, if it's done me'ava. Let's look at his language here. He says, this is source number 12. Lo haya karo af b'shem shemachnim aso mishum ava im eno shmo, right? Kegonim shmo Reuben, right? So he says, lo haya karo af b'shem shemachnim aso mishum ava. So even if it's out of love, so maybe he holds that it still will hurt him. even if it's done out of love, right? Which is true. That is possible. It's not the craziest thing, but it's very hard to understand what the Baal Tros would say is if it's a complimentary nickname, and it's done out of love, so it's not done to defame. It's not going to defame. The person enjoys hearing the nickname, and yet it's still prohibited. It's hard to understand what exactly the prohibition is according to the Baal Tros. It's no longer about defamation, right? He seems to be saying that a nickname itself is objectively problematic. So that's hard to understand. What's the problem with an objective nickname?
Right. So I guess
That's
my
a philosophical question.
My question is, yes, it seems out of place, this opinion, and in a way you try to fit it into this overall svara, but like sometimes maybe there's just an opinion that isn't logical and nobody agrees with. Like, why try to fit all these opinions into one svara? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes that doesn't work.
So I understand what you're saying. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that the svara wouldn't be logical. Now, he definitely has some logic to his opinion. It might not fit in with our understanding, but then we've got to come up with a different understanding. But I don't know what that is. Now, Rashi and Tosfos have two different understandings. If you would ask Rashi what the problem is, Rashi would say, here's the issue. The issue is that you're intending to defame the person, right? Whether or not you're successful doesn't make a difference. The prohibition is you're not allowed to intend to defame somebody. Tosfos would say, no, the problem is that it's defamatory. It's right. So they have two totally different understandings. What's the Baal Tsoros's understanding? So if the Baal Tsoros explains, like the Read Milonilio in source number 13, that no matter what, lo yitachin shelo yitbayesh b'kach, that there's no way you could even think of where it wouldn't hurt the person, right? So then so it doesn't make a difference if it's done out of love. Right? That's
philosophical already. You're looking for a philosophical answer.
No, I'm not looking for why. I'm looking for what. I'm looking for what is the prohibition.
I can give a svara for the Baal Tsoros, right, to give a person a name. The only people that have a right to give a person a name is parents. If you come along now and you change a person's name, even if it's a defamatory name, you have no right to do that.
But where do you get? Yeah, but I mean, like, where did you get that from? You just made that up. Who says that there's a prohibition of giving somebody else a name? I'm saying so. Where do you get that from? We don't see anywhere else that there's a prohibition of somebody besides the parents giving a name. We do see, like with Rashi and Tosfos, that there's a problem of the intention of hurting somebody, and there's a problem of defaming somebody. That we see within Rashi and Tosfos. That's consistent in halacha. But if you're going to develop a svara that has no other, it doesn't reveal itself anywhere else in halacha, so then it's very hard to prove. Then you're just saying it, right? So it's got to come from somewhere. It's got to be another place in halacha.
I think it makes sense to me.
What?
Why can't I come up with my own original thing? If
You
it
can
makes
come up
sense.
with your own original thing, but it has to find itself somewhere else in halacha, because or else you're just making up prohibitions. You can't create prohibitions, right? You can't say that there's a prohibition of giving somebody else.
No, I'm creating the reason for the prohibition.
No, but it's not the reason. You're creating the prohibition. The reasoning would be the philosophy. You want to create that, fine, but you're going to run into the same problem. But here, when you're defining the isser, you're saying this is an isser of taking the parent's responsibility and giving a name to it. But that's not that doesn't exist. We don't have that prohibition anywhere. Then you can come up with it. You could say anything if it doesn't have that.
Now that's a pro.
Any svara, you could just come up with anything. Then, yeah, you have to have it. It has to be placed somewhere else in the body of halacha. You can't just come up with stuff. It has to come from somewhere. Right? It has to be consistent where you see the idea somewhere else. And you can't be too creative. You have to stick to something. As you said, that anchors the svara. So that's or else we'll just be saying stuff right and left. But that's what we're trying to understand about svara. So that's I don't know how you understand. If it's not in accordance with the Read Milonil, then no matter what, it's going to be defamatory, or no matter what, it's going to embarrass the person, right? So then I don't know what you can say what the issue is. It has to be one of those things. I mean, unless it's something that we're not thinking of, which is definitely possible. I don't know what that is. Okay, let me just tell you the next week's shiur, so get everybody a little excited here. So this was like I've never spent as much time preparing a sugya to teach a sugya. Now, usually I just come up with a sugya and then come with a svara and understand the sugya and answer a bunch of questions, and then I've got it. But here, there's like 4 parts. The mitzvah that we're going to be looking at is the mitzvah of honoring a kohen, and all about that. So I really worked very hard. It's going to take us 2 weeks to do it, but the 2 weeks, the shiur and the 2 weeks are separate from each other. It's not going to be like the last time we did 2 weeks, where we listed all the questions one week and then we didn't get to the answers to the next week. It's going to be 2 enclosed units, but within the same mitzvah. It's just fascinating stuff. Really, really fascinating. It took me almost a month to finish the sugya, mostly because of laziness, but it was a really, really good sugya. Okay, so that's what we'll do the next couple weeks. Okay, everybody, Shabbat Shavua Tov. Good week, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.